Looks like about the right amount. It is 4 o'clock. It's Friday and we are here in the Nutmeg Tavern. About time, right? It's almost the weekend and we're just about ready to get started. I'm excited to invite you into the Nutmeg Tavern. We can all take a deep breath, calm down a little bit. It's time to relax. I am alone mostly here in the tavern. Ryan is not behind the bar. I do have Aaron on the other side of the time vortex there.
Hello.
Thank you, Aaron, for your help there. I am John Townsends, and today we will be talking about fun 18th century stuff. And today the topic, we're going to kind of circle around. We've talked about this before. We may have even seen a few of these pictures before. I wanted to talk about sailors in the 18th century, and the reason why this topic is kind of coming up again is a teaser, basically, because we're going to have a couple of sailor-based episodes coming up. Aaron, can you show me the little teaser picture? Oh, yeah.
This was yesterday?
It was yesterday. Yesterday, we were up on Lake Michigan on the Friends Goodwill, a tall ship up in South Haven, Michigan, at the Michigan Maritime Museum. We had a blast. There is Brandon and I, and we're serving up drinks. Let me tell you, we had a great time. Those folks up there were very kind to us, and basically we had 3 hours out on the lake. We had the perfect weather.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
it was a great day.
You plan something like that 2 or 3 weeks in advance, and you cross your fingers and hope for the best weather-wise, and it was perfect.
Yep.
So,
pretty much went off without a hitch.
Yeah.
Got pictures, got a couple videos.
Yeah. Zero hitches.
People are wondering where Ryan is. He got the coronavirus. No, I'm joking. He's at home for birthday stuff.
Don't you dare. Well, we let people take a day off for their birthday here at Townsends, which is crazy. I never take my birthday off, but everyone else does.
True.
And you kind of get to take a day, any old day close around there. And so he kind of came up with a couple of birthdays together there, kid birthdays, his birthday, and so he's gone today. So we wish Ryan the best, as he's not here delivering up the drink. So instead, I'm drinking my own wonderful oolong tea instead of some strange concoction he comes up with back there.
Yep.
It's a lot safer this way, really. Let me tell you. Our topic today, sailors. So Brandon and I were dressed up as sailors, but we're going to be looking at pictures of sailors in the 18th century, early 19th century, and their, and I'll be talking about their clothing, but I want to get a grip on something more than just clothing in these pictures. Let's try to get into the mindset or the personality of a sailor in the 18th century. They were very, very much characters, especially in these paintings. You can tell a sailor by, his facial expression and what he's wearing and his posture and those kinds of things. So that's what we're going to be looking for in these paintings today. Give me the first one, Aaron. Oh, yeah. This has got two things going on here. Now, we've got a family. This is probably, I'm guessing a widow, and she's sending off her oldest son as a midshipman. He is ready to get on board. He's ready to start his life as a sailor / officer on a ship. And so, bye-bye, Mom, and his dunnage there, his sea chest and his other goods are going up on a whip, being carried up behind him there. And he's got on, typical young gentleman's outfit. He's got on pumps. They were wearing kind of light-duty leather shoes with buckles. He's got on trousers, which is very, very much a seaman's type pants, which is not typical of everyone else. Usually men are wearing knee breeches still in this time period. Looks like a double-breasted waistcoat on. He's got a sleeve jacket on. He's got that trimmed down hat. So he's looking much like a midshipman getting ready to report on duty. And the other character to look at here is the person sitting in the back of the boat, actually the bow of the boat up there by the mast. That is a waterman, and he is someone who ferries people out in his boat, taking people back and forth. He's like a taxi driver. And you can tell, one of the reasons why you can tell is, look at his shoulder. He's got this big white patch on his shoulder. They had badges. Just like, in like New York City, you'll have a taxi medallion. It's like your license to do that job. Of course, now we got Uber, and that kind of is rubbing, causing friction with people that have medallions. But that patch is his official, I am an official waterman patch. You can trust me to take you out to the ship without drowning you. The strange thing is he's on the wrong end of the boat. He must have gone up to the front to, probably put the rope on the goods that were being sent up, and he'll probably have to clamber back over the top behind everybody else and then get to the back again so that he can steer the boat back to shore. So there's a lot in just a picture like this. Go ahead. Yeah, there's a close-up of this young man's outfit here, and he does look like he's like, I'm ready to go, it's like, bye, Mom. So here is, this is
all of these people are almost me yesterday.
Yes. Even though it was very, very calm.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It took me a little bit to...
You definitely, if you're not used to being on board ship, it can be a little upsetting. Oh, the stomach. We've got a bunch of characters here now. This is called the Margate Hoy. And Margate was a place where people would sail from, these like little short excursions. You can see down there, this is 1785. We've got lots of people here, regular people that are, not having a good trip at all. Lots of buckets and people upset stomachs. There's a person there that's dosing themselves with some sort of drink to not be upset. But check out the man who's steering, the sailorman who's steering the boat right there, basically in the center of the shot. He's like, ha, 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 he's not having any problems with the weather. He looks like he's almost taking joy in the troubles of everyone else around him. One of the things that we'll notice right there at his feet, he's got battens nailed down to the deck because this ship doesn't have a wheel. It's got a tiller. Even these sort of larger ships, and the ship we were on yesterday is like 55 foot long, yet it doesn't have a wheel. It's small enough to be still steered with a long tiller handle, and you got to have these sort of braces onto the deck of the ship so that you can brace your feet and still steer the ship. And you might have 2 or 3 people back there in hard weather. Go to the next frame. Yeah, there he is closer. Again, he's wearing trousers. He's wearing low leather shoes with a big buckle on them. And he's got this little black hat on that's sort of been trimmed down. And then it looks like the trim's been put back on it, the gold trim, so that it stays out of his way, but he's still got a hat on. I'm not sure what he's got in his pocket. But it's a functional pocket. And he's got again, a waistcoat on, a jacket on. It's got red turnbacks. So interesting clothing he's got on. Love that facial expression. There's the next guy, sailor coming from down below. He doesn't look like he's got a hat on at all. He's got a short jacket on that's green, petticoat trousers, and he's got on some like flowered neckerchief. So there's so many. Some paintings of sailors are caricatures, and other ones are just beautiful works of art. There's a bunch of them like this one.
It's about the size of the one on the left.
Yeah.
It's about the size of the one we were on, I'd say.
Exactly.
Maybe a little bigger.
Yeah, I think it's about right. So we've got lots of men out in boats rowing. Go to the next frame. I think we'll get closer up. Yeah, let's get close up. And look, they're a real mixed bag here. We can see people getting on board. So these two smaller ships here in the background look like they're just civilian ships. We've got people being delivered to them, goods being delivered back and forth. You can't, many times they would just sort of anchor these guys out in the roads of a harbor. They wouldn't go up to the quay, and so you had to bring goods back and forth to them. We can see this boat in the foreground. It looks like it's got a military jack on the back, but the sailors in it are not uniformly dressed. So the sailors themselves, many times the officers were fairly uniformly dressed, but the sailors were just wearing whatever. Looks like one of them's he's got just a shirt on, it's white, but everybody else has a jacket on, and they're wearing very, very typical hats. There you go to the next frame. Oh gosh, this painter goes to this scene over and over again, and I think we'll even see this ship with the same sail in a different painting. But look at what we've got here. I love this sort of ship that's right there in the foreground, and there's a table set up, table and chairs. Guy sitting there in a waistcoat, shirt sleeves. That looks like the real sailor is facing us with his red breeches on, a waistcoat that's almost just sort of tied closed. He's got a red cap on and a long pipe. And they're relaxing. They're just moving across the harbor. Nobody's working too hard here. There's the ship or the little boat that's right behind them. You can see the sailors, and they're waving, and they look like they're having a good time there. There's a little close up on this guy who's kicked back. I'm not sure what he's got in one hand there, but hey, that looks like the life right there.
Nope.
Nobody's working hard there. So here is, looks like we got the Boston Tea Party going on in the background. Something's going on back there. And this foreground, the very, very foreground character is the quintessential caricature of a sailor. He's got a blue short jacket on. He's got a flowered neckerchief. He's got on petticoat trousers, and you can see his knee breeches on underneath. And then he's got that classic, I'm not sure what this hat is. Whoever the artist has colored it, and he's colored it purple. It may be a knit cap that looks strange. I don't know exactly what the hat is, but ooh, he's a character. Everybody's having fun there. And of course, he's got a stick to hit people with. So he's having fun on shore. Another one of these great, it's sort of, caricature. This is a dandy on one side, and this very curmudgeonly sailor person on the other side. He's on shore. He's got a shore-going rig. Sailors were quite known for this sort of, there's the working clothes, and then it's like time to go on shore. I'm gonna put on my fancy clothes, and I've got my walking stick so I can hit people. And he's got his monkey that's dressed up, and sailors were known for going to exotic places, and sort of being they're characters for that reason. They're so much more cosmopolitan and sort of criminal class cosmopolitan, right? So they kick around the hard ports, and they meet all kinds of strange folks and come back with great stories. Those things are all true because sailors were in that position when so many other people weren't. So they really got to see the underbelly of all over the world, and had different, let's say, experiences than most people would have. Although they're not the kind of people to write about them. You know, that most regular sailors, they didn't write or they weren't the kind of person who sat down and wrote their stories. So we can only sort of, get a guess. You want to come back to the rest of those pictures and we can talk some.
Yeah, let me get some super chats real quick, if that's cool.
I am ready.
And then we'll maybe do some questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Al Jones is a new member. Thank you for
Al.
joining. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing some of the people who joined early, they're starting to get the different badges.
Yeah.
Some people have the boar's head right now, which is pretty cool to see. Luke Grizz 77. Your cooking tutorials have brought much joy and good food into my home. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Denise Mallory Pyron, I believe. You're wearing my favorite coat. Have a great weekend. BGW32, thank you. Ryan Mercer. It's Friday. That's right. Thank you. Talking about the dude. Late to the live stream. Love this topic. Happy birthday, Ryan. And yeah, their live thing is being janky, so let me scroll up a little bit. Christopher Ramsey. Thanks for another great start to the weekend. Checking in from Orleans, Massachusetts on Cape Cod.
Yes.
Nice. That's all I got for now. Thanks, everyone.
Beautiful.
Do we try to find a couple questions?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go digging around a little bit. Somebody was asking about what social class would sailors belong to? Was it different for captains?
Well, it's going to be a lot different. I mean, there's a differential between anybody who's an officer and all the common sailors, and it's very similar even in the merchant marine as it is in sort of the Navy. So we think of sailor, as sometimes we can think of that as sort of a military thing, but of course the vast majority, or I think we could even safely say the majority, most of the time, were civilian. In times of war, a lot of civilian sailors became military sailors, whether they liked it or not, sometimes. But even whether it's in a military situation or in a civilian situation, there were the common seamen that were sailors that were, doing the hard work, and then there was sort of this middle section of people that had special skills, carpenters and ship's cooks that kind of lived in the center or in the middle there, and then there were the ship's officers, first, second, third, lieutenant. So the midshipmen were kind of there in the middle, and then you had like the captain up there, and those you didn't really jump from being a normal sailor to being an officer. Generally, you started out as a low officer. You were that kind of person. So there's the regular folks, and then there's the officers.
So in that one picture, that woman, it looks like she's drinking something.
Yeah.
Keep yourself from getting sick.
You probably.
Somebody was wondering, what would you drink to keep you from getting seasick?
I'm thinking that she's just feeling so bad. She's trying to get drunk. I have no idea. I imagine from the painting or from the caricature cartoon that the only thing we can assume is some alcoholic beverage, because it's like anything's better than feeling bad. But I imagine that would make them feel bad too. So I have no idea what you would drink to try to make yourself feel better. It's toughy. So
Aaron Howitt just donated. Thank you. Question: what was the sailor's alcohol of choice? Rum, port, sherry, grog, gimlets? Does it depend on rank and port of origin?
Well, it does very much so. Officers are going to be drinking like wines generally, and sometimes they'll make themselves a punch, which is a mixed drink with something like rum. But the sailors had many times just standard rations, which are going to be a beer when you're in sort of home waters, but beer doesn't last all that long in the 18th century. So as soon as you're in foreign waters where your beer has run out, generally it's strong spirits that have been mixed with water. So grog is a classic, many times made with rum, but it doesn't have to be. Grog is basically any of those spirits that you would get in your local port, where it might be a rack, or it might be some other kind of hard spirits that you would mix with water, and that's as close as you could get. There might be some situations too where wine is going to be substituted instead of beer, but it all has to do with what's available, right? So, and I don't think the sailors were all that picky. The nice thing about those high alcohol things like rum is that they don't go bad in their barrel. So while you're in home waters, you're drinking beer, that goes bad. You can always fall back on whatever hard spirit is available, but it's always served out mixed with its water.
Someone was saying, real quick, donation from Well Your World. Thank you. Someone was saying you should read about theft on ships. It's almost like a free-flowing amount of objects. People would just steal from each other left and right, then steal their stuff back from them. Have you read anything on that?
Not about that particular situation, and I think that's that would be an interesting study to. I think that really is a culture of each individual ship and each individual kind of culture that crew is from. So I think that can be very different in very different places. And the thing to do is to find journals from those individual ship situations and see how often that kind of comes up. And we have more ship's logs and things available to us than we might think, but some of those aren't going to necessarily talk about punishment. They kept track of those things in the time period, but did they survive? Those are really would be very interesting things to dig into, give us a picture of what's happening in the culture.
What types of backgrounds did people who became sailors have? Was it just a job and people needed work, or did they actively seek it out?
So it's all of those things. There are, in Great Britain, if you're anywhere close to the ocean, you might get pressed as if you looked like you'd ever been to sea, the British Navy might press you in hard times of war and force you to become a sailor again. So they would have press gangs. That's one of the things that caused trouble for right at the beginning of the War of 1812 was impressment of sailors who were American or at least wanted to pretend they were American, and they would be forced into the British Navy, and that was a bone of contention. So, but there were many people that was the family way of life. So my father was a sailor. I will become a sailor also. And then there are other times it's like the last choice. So, I think it was also, I think it was one of those time periods where, you weren't sure. There was a sort of definite unemployment problems. And there was always a need for people to go out and be a sailor because it was dangerous and it didn't pay all that well. And the conditions weren't all that great. So, but there was always a need for them. So it was sort of one of those last choices.
2 donations, and let's get back to the paintings.
Yeah.
John Kendington, thank you. There really was no cure for seasickness. Nelson was seasick his entire career. John Paul Jones suffered. S. Mackey, love the homesteading videos. Thank you. Is the goal to be a public interactive, or is this just a personal project?
The homestead series and the location is meant to be video interactive, right? Many people can't get out to historic sites right now, and we want to be able to still deliver that sort of experience, at least in a small way, vicariously. So that's what what we're doing. That's what it's about. It's about the videos and not about people being able to come and see that, because it's basically on private property, and it's not meant to be a public installation, if that's the term I want to look for.
Nope, that's a good way to put it. Are you ready?
Yes,
All right.
let's go. This is a study sketch. I mean, obviously it's just sort of there, but even these can be really, really interesting to see what's going on close up. And we get a true mix here of people in mostly civilian clothing, like the guy who's hopping from the boat and into the other one. He's in just basically typical 1770s kind of outfit. The person there back at the tiller, another person who you know, he could easily be someone who's just on shore. Although they are just in waistcoats, in shirt sleeves, that's a little kind of pretty undressed. It'd be like us walking around in t-shirts. Of course, you know, we do that all the time, but they didn't. We've got the sailor there who's facing us, who's moving the box. He's in trousers. But he's got that kind of classic, he's got kind of some kind of stripy, you know, stocking cap sort of hat on. That kind of really says sailor in this situation, even if he wasn't on a boat with a bunch of barrels behind him. And then I think the person here who's bent over, he's just in pencil. He hasn't been watercolored in yet. He's got look like a knit cap on, and his sleeves are pushed up. Very interesting, working there, lifting up the barrel or moving it. Another one, they're in hard working dress. You just don't see that many people in standard working situations in the 18th century on shore that are dressed like this. These are hard working folks. Go ahead. Not as many paintings of non-British that I have in the collection here, but this is a French port. And so we see a few French sailors here working. Now there's the men in the boat behind, and they're all dressed in exactly the same outfit. Probably a military situation back there. They all have their kind of blue jackets on. But these guys in the foreground that are moving goods barefoot, wearing trousers, wearing these red stocking caps, which is very sort of French, kind of typical for that. So it gives us an idea about what French sailors are looking like, especially in a working situation. I don't see any petticoat trousers here, so mostly just in sort of trousers that are, some of them are even kind of long. Now, another one of these beautiful paintings. I really wish I had this boat. What is it called? The Yarmouth right there. I want that one. Not too big. You can't have too big a boat, then you need too many people to help work it. Let's look close up, Aaron. Yeah, here's these guys pulling on the oars there. A nice small, like a jolly boat or a cutter. And mixed outfits. They're in, all different colors there. There's some tricorn hats there. There's some cut down hats. So we can, that's a nice tight piece on a ship, on a backed out ship painting, but the author still wants, or the painter still wants to give us a nice close up look. Go ahead. And there's that's the boat right there. That's my boat. that's my boat. I'm gonna find that one someplace and get it. I'm just looking at the boat. So I'm salivating over here. Not too many. I'll bet it's like a 30-footer there. And then there's.
You want that one instead?
No. I wouldn't turn it down. Not in a minute. Yeah. But just a couple guys. That's just a little boat there. One of the ship's boats. Go ahead. So this is that pairing. This is that same.
Same location.
Right. Same location with the bridge in the background. And it's the same kind of barge boat here in the foreground. The patches on the sail and everything. So he probably had that same working sketch. He was looking at one. And look at what's on the deck there. There's a grinding wheel as cargo.
Oh, sorry, I thought it would zoom in.
Yeah,
sorry.
No, it didn't. I am zoomed in. So yeah, there's a grinding wheel. There's these guys in the back with this, rowing the barge back there. and they're all uniformed in brown, which is interesting. And smaller boats in the foreground, the sailors doing their hard work of rowing people around, and then there are passengers kicked back, just enjoying the ride, probably getting a little bit of spray on a day like today. Looks like it's not the calmest day. I believe it's the same painter or similar. Again, a stripy hat. It looks like the guy there in the ship, which is probably a Dutch ship in the Thames there. He's got a red, white, and blue cap on. There's another one. The guy at the tiller at this far right-hand side, he's got a red, white, and blue knit cap and a double-breasted thing. These guys are, especially the guy in the center foreground boat. He is just one guy moving this probably very heavy boat, and he's probably struggling to keep it into position and get it to go where he wants to go. But obviously we've got calmer water, or else he wouldn't be able to do that job at all.
Looks like hard work.
Yeah, and they're all crowding together, getting ready to load stuff onto this ship so it can go out. And I mean, can you imagine how hard it would be to move goods from one boat to another boat, and that's the only way you're doing it?
It was hard enough moving our camera gear on that boat yesterday.
Right. And we were right up, on the pier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, bridge is good.
Yeah, there's the bridge again. Same painter. There's he's got there's no wind. We can almost see a reflection, or we can see a reflection of the bridge in the water. So the sail is furled and tied up. There's no reason to have it there. And he's rowing these folks. There's a little kid in the boat, a soldier in the boat, 2 women. They've got some goods there. And he doesn't even look like he's straining, right? He's not straining at the oars. He's smoking his pipe and taking his time to get them where they're going. Now, remember the guy that was working really hard? Look at the guy on the right-hand side. He's got a barge full of whatever. Even if it was empty, that thing would be heavy. And he's doing all the work with 2 oars at the very front end. That's got to be... But again, very, very still water, so we can see reflections. And there's another boat, just one guy with, on the oars. Nobody steering, so he's by himself. So we've got so much commerce going on the waters here. These rivers are vitally important to commerce in the 18th century. We think of highways and interstates and where all this commerce is going, maybe railroads. All that is all stacked up into ships and boats in the 18th century. Waterways are the interstates. And so the number of people that had to do this job is just, it's tremendous. It's a large quantity or a large percentage of the population that's going to be doing this kind of work.
And just so crucial.
Yeah, crucial. These guys, they're in shirt sleeves. Again, you would not be caught dead walking down the street in this outfit. But in this setting, you are working very, very hard. And so you're stripped down to your shirt and you're rowing your boats around. These guys are military. We actually have, it's a little hard because this is a sketch, but we've got 3 kinds of folks here. We've got standard sailors, kind of that, lower tier, workaday sailors. We've got officers in the back of the boat. We've got officers there in their tricorn hats. They've got their fancy coats on. And the boat behind them, there's sailors in the front, but I believe we actually have military, or the Marines, the kind of military soldiers that would be on board ship, sort of in the background there. So there's not only are there just common sailors, there are skilled workers on a ship that are doing the coopering and the carpentry work and other things like that. We've got the officers, but we also have in a military boat, we have this military contingent of soldiers that are there to do land-based operations and to be the soldiers. So they're not necessarily firing cannons, but they're up in the tops firing guns and also being the sort of backstop. If the sailors would want to mutiny, you'd want to have these guys sort of being your enforcers and keeping law and order on your ship. So, and there we are. We're back at the beginning. It's amazing digging through the paintings and interpreting and understanding what's going on with these pictures and trying to get a feel for what the life was like. One of the great things about going up to Friends Goodwill and being on board was, you get, not only can you get the feel by reading journals and diaries of sailors and officers, but standing on a ship that's made just like they were in the 18th century, and it's neat enough to do that when they're kind of on shore or right there at the pier. But when you go out and get to take that trip and feel that wind and get the spray in your face, incredible feeling.
Yep, it was pretty awesome. And when I wasn't feeling that good, I went down to sit, and the dude was like, "No, don't go down there.
Don't
Get
do
back."
that.
And I immediately felt a lot better going on deck. Okay, let me do some super chats, and then we'll do some questions. Where did we leave off? Okay, Kovishin, thank you. Beyond press ganging, what about people being shanghaied to be on a ship? Speed and Style Tony, watched the Wednesday live show last night, enjoyed it greatly, to the point of my brain tainting. Yes.
Whoa.
That was a lot of fun. Aaron Howitt, thank you. Birthday coin for the bartender.
Ooh.
Luke G, thank you. Ewan McCall and A.L. Lloyd made a couple of sea shanty records in the 60s called Dar She Blows. They are really worth a listen. Love the show and channel. Thank you. Blue Coda. Do you guys happen to do any local events? Mississinawa 1812, if it ever happens in the future. Is there any public events that fans can meet you guys? Alchemist 009, thank you. And for a quick drink before I travel, question from the last live stream. Was the treatment in that one sales video responsible for your proclivity towards nutmeg? Lisa Kilmer, thank you. Another great episode. Keep up the excellence. And then one more. Let me dig for it. Aaron Howe, again, thank you. Was there hazing on ships? That's all I got right now. Thanks, everyone. I can read some of those back.
I think I've got the notes here. Yeah. So the concept of press gang / Shanghai. Yeah, I think that kind of happened. So press gang is a military kind of thing that's happening, but if you really needed to get your ship manned and you didn't have any other way to do it, you might do sneaky stuff. And it's sort of like possession's 9/10 of the law, right? So you kind of get somebody all drunk, and then they pass out, and you shove them on board ship, and they can't get off, they can't get away, so they have to do the job. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's probably happened more often than anybody wants to admit. Local events, Mississinawa 1812. We generally go to that every year. Kalamazoo in Michigan in the spring. Again, that's one of those local events we go to. Well, obviously not this year, but in future years, yes, you should be able to see us at those kinds of local events. Although those are some of the few. I mean, we've just been doing less and less events just because we're so busy doing what we do that it's just hard to make the time to do that. And I don't know if it's going to happen this year or not. We all cross our fingers, but we have been at Martin Station for the raid at Martin Station. That always happens in May, middle of May, down at Ewing, Virginia. and it's been rescheduled for the fall this year. If it happens, we'll be there. So that's local events. Treatments. Treatments. Where does nutmeg come from? Nutmeg is. It just. If you do 18th century cooking, you got to have like a barrel of nutmeg in the back room because every recipe is going to have it in there. So we just built a big vault, and that's what we use to store our nutmeg in. And it's just the way it is. It has to do with treatment. It's just your diet. It's every day. Get out the nutmeg, and it's the only way.
Speaking of which,
go.
It just slowly became like a inside joke because everything had nutmeg in it.
There's one more, hazing.
Yeah.
So yes. When you're gonna get together a bunch of troublesome, rowdy males. Right, and you're going to have some that have been doing whatever it is for 20 years, and then you're going to get rookies. Of course, there's hazing, all kinds of hazing, and even that idea of crossing over the equator, and Neptune comes over the side and initiates the people who've never been over the equator before. Oh yeah, that's definitely happening. Paint somebody blue, and they stay blue for the next 2 weeks. Yep. It happened. Shave them with a barrel hoop. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So hazing, definitely. But a big star by that.
Just 2 more donations right now. I'll just get them real quick. NPG Owen, thank you. Any chance in the future to see you guys doing something maritime like small boat sailing? And then Noob Thunder, really nice donation. Thank you. Always great to watch after a long week. Keep up the great content. Thank you.
Stay tuned for the On Board the Friends Goodwill episode or 2 coming up. And I've got another one maybe planned for small boat stuff. I was thinking about that earlier today, so thanks for reminding me.
Someone was asking about if we were still going to do a canoe trip, and it's just one of those things that stuff keeps coming up, and either the river's too high or we have to do other things. But yeah, we still want to do something like
it's
that.
hard to do all the things we want to do. I have this giant list that's like 100 things long, and it's like, how am I going to get them all done? And they all take about 4 times longer than you think they're going to take. But yes, stuff is in the works for that.
We have this list downstairs, and we laid everything out probably over 2 months ago. It's like 3 things are crossed off.
Yeah. And yet, we've been busy the whole time.
Yeah.
Before I go any further, I want to get to this week's Patreon names. And we are now over 800 strong on Patreon, people supporting us that way to help make the videos happen. And the new folks this week, Stephanie Sanchez, Brian Armstrong, Caitlin Eskew, Sam Johnston, Lisa Kinman Staffco, Mia, Plain Jane, Brenton Wilburn, Carl Loughton, someone that is just JCE, and some folks help us out with just giving us a little bit of money on PayPal, which is really nice if you just want to do it one time and you don't want to have a lot of overhead too, so it's just like, here's some PayPal. Scrimshire. So they're in PayPal. It takes a lot to be able to do the number of videos that we do and the kind of complexity. I mean, the live stream is a live stream, right? But when we go up to Friends Goodwill, or we go to a historic site, or we build some strange thing out on the homestead, all those things take a lot of time. They take a lot of effort, materials, and you guys make it happen. What do you got, Aaron?
Was press ganging a thing in America? I know we were kind of talking about that the other day.
Yeah, so we were talking about that the other day, and as far as I know,
Would you want to explain like what that is?
So yeah, press gang. That's where usually a group of sailors, along with one officer, go out, and it's like recruiting, except it's not voluntary. You are now a sailor, and they rip you out and put you on board the ship. They might even put you under guard with chains on until you're out to sea and you can't get away.
Now, was this not only for the military? Was this also for just
Only military.
only military? Okay.
Right. And the civilian sailor situations, they would just have to pay more to try to get people to be sailors. So generally the rules were that you had to look like, you had to look like you were a sailor for them to take you. But after a while, the press gang's wink, wink, close enough. He looks like somebody who's got experience to me, and they just, drag you off. Now, sometimes the involuntary impressment was from prisons too. They would just go into a prison. It's like, would you rather be a sailor than be here in the rat-infested prison? And it's like, whoop, off you go. So, you would have a choice in those kinds of situations too. As far as I know, in North America, in non-British situations, in sort of after 1776, all those military situations in United States, they were volunteer. They were not a forced impressment like like what was happening in Great Britain.
Somebody's saying it's like the draft. I don't even know if that's kind of comparable, but not even.
Yeah, kind of like the draft, but with billy clubs. Yeah, yeah. You're drafted,
There's
bonk.
no letters in the mail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they would just drag people off the street.
Somebody said recruitment by kidnapping.
Right.
Essentially.
And there's another painting that I didn't get, and it's a picture slash, well, it's more of a cartoon, but it shows these sailors dragging a tailor, and he's a tailor because you can tell he's got scissors and whatnot, and they're dragging this tailor out to be a sailor, and it was probably a social commentary at the time about how this was a very unfair situation. There's the wife that's weeping that her husband's being carried away as a sailor. He doesn't have any experience at that, and yet he doesn't have any choice, and neither does she.
No. So in America, though, it wasn't.
Right. In the United States, that wasn't a situation. Now, what's happening in the colonies and how that works, that's not at the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple donations that do have questions, so we'll get those real quick. Sue O'Connor says, I love my new bed jacket. Around for Marcia, many thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Windy Delta, I love your videos so much. Do you know anything interesting about Canadian maritime / coastal area? They're from Canada. And Denise Mallory Pyron, again, thank you. My son and dog have been away visiting my mother for 3 weeks. This counts as my social life every Friday. Thank you guys for doing what you do. Thank you, and thank you for watching. All right.
All up and down the east coast of North America, whether it's in Canada, Maine, Massachusetts, there's just a rich history of what's going on, and they are all kind of connected, right? There's not like this hard, fast line that necessarily goes from one to the other. But I don't have any real interesting. There are some journals to read about that, especially sailors. There's one, I can't remember which one it is, Astbury or somebody else, who it was a sailor who went from sort of Massachusetts area, and he goes up and he serves time up there in the St. Lawrence Seaway and connects with things that are happening up further in that Canadian maritime area. But they're all working up and down that area, especially when it isn't wartime, right? So sailors are going from the top to the bottom, doing all kinds of trading, getting lumber, moving it. There's all these different kinds of activities that are going on. Fishing. I mean, it's the ocean and its transport and the resources come from it are just so vastly important, and we don't even think about it.
Aaron Howitt in Super Chat again. Thank you. Last of my Super Chat budget. When did scrimshaw become a thing, and what else did sailors do to pass the time?
Good question, and I don't have a fast answer for it. I mean, that idea of carving, things in, doing, little artworky kind of working art into little tiny items is not uncommon, and it probably goes back as far as you want it to go. It's just that those kinds of items don't necessarily stick around, excuse me, as long as you want them to. Now, the heyday of that is 19th century sailors. But it's a little harder to go back and do the research when you get into the 18th century. Those things have disappeared and do disappear as time goes on. So there are items that we see that have been sort of crudely engraved, some of them not so crudely done, and in all kinds of different materials. So one of the funniest ones is from the late 18th century, I believe, and it's a snuff box that's carved from salt beef that was so hard that it looks like wood, but it's actually meat from the time period.
That's awesome. Haley Hellfreak, I believe, or Hellfreak, is in Super Chat. I need to know about the experience with the bees in the earthen oven. Did you ever clear them out? When did they move in? Are they friends now? And that happened long time ago.
Yeah. So bees, the earthen oven that's down at the pond that's been there since 2011, and it's still there, still usable.
Yeah.
In fact, we cooked something in it not that long ago. Yeah. It's just like the perfect thing. Bees just love it, especially if the door is on it, because there's just a little gap. Bees like to have this, they want a nice big open cavity, but a small opening so that things like raccoons can't just crawl in there and eat them up, in the winter, in the nighttime when they're all sleeping. So they thought that the oven was just the place to set up shop, nice and cool, big opening, tiny or big hollow and a tiny opening, and but they generally, if the hive area is not in the best location, they will just clear out after a while. Oh, there's not enough room here, and they'll swarm and they'll go someplace. They'll find someplace else to be. So they left on their own volition. I did not force them out, but since then I don't store the door on the oven because if I want to use it for cooking, obviously if it's full of bees, that is not helpful.
Shiv Vidula, I'm sorry if I butchered that. Donation, thank you. And became a member, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Adam Asmar, donation, thank you. That she was saying we did a video about the bees. I don't know.
I think we maybe just talked about them in a live stream,
Q&A
maybe.
Or something.
Yeah, bees. You'll read. It's there's some interesting reading. I think that Colonel James Smith book that we did the venison thing with. I believe he talks about when he was with the Native Americans going out and hunting up bee trees. So looking for bee trees that had honey in them, they would just cut them down and harvest the honey out of them. And it was, there's some just crazy wild stories in some of the journals from the 18th century about, bees and the bee culture. And there's some, obviously some very worked out bee culture from the 18th century, some nice works. We even thought about, reprinting one of them, but it's a pretty tiny, thin topic, bees in the 18th century.
Mike Wood, thank you for joining. And I don't know. Anything else we want to tease out or talk about before we probably about that time?
Yeah, I really am sort of I'm concerned / excited about the changes that hopefully the good changes that might happen with historic sites in the future. I'm very, very, though, concerned about what's happening with historic sites. We were just up in South Haven, Michigan, at the Michigan Maritime Museum, and their outdoor things. They've got different kinds of ships, and they got the Friends Goodwill, and they've got some 19th century pieces, even some early 20th century pieces. Seemed like there were people there. I don't know how busy they are compared to normally this time of year, but boy, hope they can all hold together till, things at least come semi back to normal and people can get to go to historic sites. If you're ever in that Southwest Michigan and you like anything that's, ships and sailors and stuff like that, make sure to check out the Michigan Maritime Museum in South Haven, Michigan.
Yeah, it's worth going out on the Friends Goodwill.
Right.
Pretty
and,
awesome.
Yeah, and they also have a Coast Guard ship there. If you remember the movie called The Greatest Hours, no, The Longest Hours, what was it called?
Finest Hours.
Finest Hours, something like that. That had to do with the, what was the actor? Is it Pine?
Oh, Chris Pine,
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. He was the actor, and they went out and rescued people from the ship, and they brought. Anyway, the rescue ship is one that they used in the movie. They have at the museum there, so it's a real neat spot.
Yeah, it was awesome. Real quick, Brian Willis, thank you for joining, and Tyla Valencia, I hope I pronounced that right. Some money towards your boat, John.
Oh yes. Need a lot for this boat. I'm excited. Let's get. I want to get it ordered. We can make a lot of cool videos from that, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
So, whether it's Patreon, whether it's people who support us in Super Chat, or check out merch on our website, or just watch our videos and share them with people, share our channel with people. It's so vitally important for what we do here as we make videos. And it seems like, I'm always getting all this very interesting encouragement about different kinds of topics. That is so helpful to us on this end, because it's all exciting to me. Right? I was like, I'll do a video on basically anything. Let's do it. I'm excited about what's happening in the 18th century, and I always have fun with it. And it all interconnects. So, all these pieces come together. It's always so much fun. You guys make that happen. You share the videos. You help us out. You support us. That's what makes it happen. I hope you have a tremendous weekend. Thanks for watching today.